welcome as we call our order the regular city council meeting. This is the 19th day of October, 2021, 6 p.m. As we stand to the flags. Councilman Henry Payne will lead us in the invocation, and I will lead us in the pledges.
Let's pray. Father, I want to thank you for this day. Thank you for life, health, and strength. Thank you for this council as we come together to discuss the business of the city, and ask that you would bless all of those that are in attendance today, Father. Ask that you would bless them with the blessings that they stand in need of, and watch over us all as we depart from this place, but never from your presence. In your name I pray forever. Amen.
Amen. Face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We'll call the meeting to order now, and I will declare a quorum present. Everyone is here, and all notices were legally posted pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, front and rear of the building here at City Hall. Now's the time for citizens' comments. We have several people that have signed up for a particular item number 10, I think. So we have several there, so we're gonna wait until item number 10 and let y'all come up during that agenda item. So you won't come up here right at first. That's okay. We have several. But we do have Ben Campbell here who would like to come up and say something to us here, Ben, about the dog.
My name is Ben Campbell. I live at 1602 Timberline, Henderson, Texas. I've been in that home for 16 years now. I'm here to speak about the current dangerous dog laws or ordinances. On October 3rd, my 10-year-old Maltese, which is like our child, stepped off of our front porch and was viciously attacked by 2 pit bulls from the neighbors across the street. They had not gotten out or jumped the fence. They were let out. And I had tried to call I called the police, and the animal control came and seized the animal. I tried to get the dog deemed dangerous. According to the head of the animal control, I couldn't get in touch with her. I got in touch with the city manager. He got me in touch with her. She called back the next day and said, well, unless it attacks a person, we can't do anything. So we all know that there's lots of cities that deem those dogs dangerous anyways. It attacked my animal. I've got video of it right here, pictures of it from our Ring doorbell that y'all can take a look at if you'd like. My question is, what can we do to change that? What's going to happen? The dog was quarantined for 10 days. It's back over at that house now. If they let it out, or if it gets out and it kills a child, or if somebody's walking their dog and it attacks their dog, and then that person tries to save their animal and the pit bulls attack them, is that what we wait on? When we've already had it in our possession and could have had the dog destroyed because it's dangerous. I don't know what we can do to change the law. I hope there is something we can do, but I'm not against dogs. I rescue dogs. I'm not against pit bulls by any means, but it came in my yard, attacked my dog unprovoked, and viciously killed it. My neighbor, whose name is Billy Bratton, who lives next door to me, he's a captain in the prison system. The dogs chased him. They didn't get him. He got away from them, but he tore one of his tendons, had to go to the hospital. He reported that to the police when they came on October 3rd to our home as well. So they're dangerous animals, and now they've been released right back to the same people that had them. They got a ticket. There needs to be something done. They need to, the city needs to make them carry insurance. The city probably needs to go inspect the enclosure once a month and then charge the homeowner for that. Whatever it takes. If you're gonna have an aggressive animal, you need to be responsible for it. And these people, they don't care. You know, it's no big deal to them. So if there's something we can do, something I can do, if there's something y'all can look at, I think it needs to be revisited because, like I said, the next thing is going to be a child. As we all know, or most of us know, there was a child, 11-year-old kid over in Levitt Chapel who was attacked a few years ago and killed. And supposedly they were sweet, nice dogs, and the child knew them. They killed him. So if this dog jumps out again and attacks a person, what are we going to do as the city of Henderson? Go, well, he was already in our possession. We already knew he was dangerous. He already attacked an animal in his own yard unprovoked. And I don't see anything in the laws regarding that. I think something needs to be done about it. So thank you.
Thank you,
It was
Ben.
the same day that your dog got attacked and chased that man out?
No, they chased him in July, but he came out when the police came over and gave them a statement saying that those animals had chased him up into his yard. And like I said, they're not, it's not like they're getting out these people, just let them out and leave them out all night and they roam the neighborhood. And just so happened, I had taken Scout to the park, came back, he jumped out of the truck, came up the sidewalk. Christy had heard us pull up. She opened up the door and Zoe, as you can see in those pictures, stepped off of the porch and you can see those two pit bulls right there. And in that sequence of pictures, you can see where they attacked her. And they didn't just immediately kill her. She struggled. You know, we tried to get her to the vet in Tyler. It was a Sunday. That's emergency vet. We got past Kroger's going down the hill and she died in her arms. So, you know, that's our child basically. Although it's not a human, you know, it means a lot to us. And, you know, realistically, had I not kept a cool head, it could have turned into a big feud, you know, where people would have lost their lives. I was pretty upset about it. So, and like I said, these, you know, had it been my dog, if I had a pit bull and it did to somebody, I would have killed the dog myself. But some people just, they don't care. And these people don't care. And their dog was just released to them 10 days later and it's back at their house now. So if it gets back out, you know, and hurts another animal or a person, it's going to be bad. So I would hope that there's something in our, you know, that we can do with the laws to try to change that, so that you know, I don't know what can be done, but hope something. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Ben.
There's very little we can say by law, but I would like that review for the next council meeting,
Right.
whatever we have current.
Okay. Proclamation. Sit tight. Come on. Come on. I'm coming down to you.
Okay.
We have a proclamation here that's very fitting and very precise. And it's rather lengthy, so y'all just sit back and relax for a few moments. It's not that. There you go. There you go. Okay, Domestic Violence Awareness Month 2021 is an official proclamation. Whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy and dignity, security, and humanity due to systematic control of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control, and our abuse, including abuse of children and the elderly. Whereas the problems of domestic violence are not confined to any group or groups of people, but cut across all economic, racial, and social barriers, and are supported by social indifferences. And whereas the impacts of domestic violence is wide-ranging, directly affecting individuals and society as a whole, here in this community and throughout the United States and the world. And whereas the Women's Center of East Texas is focused on ending violence by providing safe haven, crisis intervention, and comprehensive support services to victims of domestic violence. And whereas survivors of domestic violence themselves have been at the forefront of efforts to bring peace and equality to the home. Now, therefore, in recognition of the important work done by domestic violence programs I do hereby proclaim the month of October 2021 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month and urge all citizens in that activities to participate in the scheduled activities and programs to work toward educating, eradicating domestic violence, improving victim safety, and holding perpetrators of domestic abuse accountable for their actions against individual victims and our society as a whole. And so, congratulations. I'll sign this document and pass it on to you. Okay, hang on just for a second. Okay, and thank you very much.
Thank
You
y'all.
already got a photo? Would you like to have her holding this document here? There you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And on another note here, we have a very important plaque to present to, let me see, it must be Era. Come on up here, Era. We have something for you. Era's service to the community has been long lasting on the Board of Adjustments. Is that not correct? She's made a lot of adjustments on that board. And she will be missed. She will be missed. We have something very nice here for you. I think we will really like to show this off very quickly. So let's show this. Let's get our pictures. Take that mask off. Let's get your picture. We're gonna put your picture in the paper. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Okay, put that in the box. Maybe that's nice. Can you show them? So, y'all in here, y'all need to let this be an example for something you could do for the community. Here's Era, been on that board for 40 years. Maybe not quite that long, but anyway, for a long time. And she's been a good and faithful servant. And so, it doesn't hurt to volunteer for a few things. So, just look at her and think about what she's done. We're so proud of her. Okay. So I'll get back to business.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, like I say, we have some more participants here, but we'll get to y'all here. The agenda. We have a presentation. Rusty. Oh, Rusty. Yeah, Rusty. Yeah, come on up, Rusty. I forgot about Rusty. The chief and the deputy chief.
Let me talk a little bit before Sonny gets to talk.
Go right ahead. You can only have 25 minutes.
October's been busy.
25 seconds.
October's been busy though. With Fire Prevention Month right now, we're in the middle of our Bankstown thing with restaurants. Restaurants are donating, certain restaurants are donating percentage of the proceeds and donating it to cancer fund. Done sold out of several sizes of t-shirts already, so it's been very good. Thank you for Edgar putting it on social media. She put some great information out. Hillary, thank you. Claudette's been overwhelmed over there, but we're good. And October 30th, Public Safety Fund Night, we're gonna do it out at the Civic Center again, from 5 to 7. Y'all come out and see us and visit with the kids, and we'll have a good time. And hopefully next year, maybe we can move back into the station and get a little crowded. But the real reason we're here is, last month, Sonny attended and graduated Texas Fire Chiefs Academy. I was gonna congratulate him and let him tell you just a little bit about it.
I just want to say thank you.
Not that
Not that easy. I got you. So anyways, when I got promoted, that was some of the, I guess kind of guidelines, I guess that chief set for me, goals I needed to reach, as I went from captain to admin.
I wasn't real sure Chief Leitner or not. I was like, he's throwing a lot on me, but it ended up being a great thing. It's a 2-year program, do a lot of online stuff. I had to write a thesis paper. I actually had to present my paper to a council or board. And it was all pass or fail, according to your thesis paper or your panel interview. We started out with 77 fire chiefs from around Texas that started off my class the first year. And when I graduated last month, we're down to 39. So, yeah, it's a lot of school, it's a lot of study. I know Chief probably, he's probably stressed out about as much as I was, last couple of months. I was worried about my thesis paper and the program. School was in San Marcos, so you had to go to San Marcos one week out of the year, and it was a lot of school. You went from school from roughly about 7 to about noon. You had an hour for lunch, and you went from 1 to 5. You had a 2-hour lunch break. You went into San Marcos at 8, and the school started back up at 7 to about 10:30, 11 o'clock every night. So it was it starts on Sunday, and then if you're lucky enough, you get to graduate that Friday, Friday afternoon. So a lot of networking, a lot of group activities, a lot of school. I just want to say thank you to Chief and Mr. J here for guiding me. Like I said, I went to them just for a lot of stuff because, like I said, I was out of my normal routine of just with school, but just with talking to council, writing a paper, how to present it, and stuff like that. And both Chief and Mr. Amber were really great about that. So thank you, council. Thank you, Chief, and I appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Any questions? I got questions.
So Rusty, what's next? What are you gonna do? Is he got
He's gonna let me go is what's gonna happen.
to achieve another goal? Is that coming?
They got a police academy in his crosshairs. So.
Oh,
That's what I'm telling you. I'm not gonna, I gotta do something.
work into it.
Yeah. So, yes, sir.
There's something in one of these reports that I don't know how to pronounce it or what it means. Deputy Chief Sonny L. something.
No, it's a misspell. We're lucky to be here. That's what it means.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I don't know what it means.
I don't know
Surely it
either.
doesn't mean.
I have no idea where that picture came from.
Sir.
This is in your monthly report.
Uh-oh.
Oh, really? You put that in the report.
I guess it came from the fire department.
Oh, my.
Are you telling me you hadn't seen this?
No, sir.
Surely.
That's not even me.
Yes, it is.
How do you know?
Because I've got 2 eyes and I can see it, Chief.
It's black and white.
It's not in color.
No, it's not in color. That's
No,
right.
that's right.
No, that.
Huh.
Yeah, it's in this film. It's in this film. I do not even know what a luchador is.
Luchador, okay.
Yeah.
You better-
He knows what it is.
Hey, Mayor, can you drop me back?
Silence in the
Thanks, Treasurer. You're so kind. Yeah,
I've never seen it, heard of it, and I didn't.
yeah, let's keep it that way. We can keep it that way. We don't have to go public about it.
Just do
Too late.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
The event will be on pay-per-view live.
It's live right now.
As the list store takes on cancer. Live on pay-per-view. It's
See you.
gonna be good.
Hopefully this is the last time, sir. Thank you.
I finally got him back. Okay. All right, I think we'll move forward. At this point in time here. Now's the time for the consent agenda. Any item on the consent agenda could be pulled off and moved over to the regular agenda if necessary by the mayor, council member, or the city manager. So y'all have all looked at the consent agenda and you've got a copy of your packet and everything. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Consent agenda stands approved at this time. We'll now Move to council business regular session. Item number 6 on the agenda is consideration and possible action upon an agreement between the City of Henderson Police Department and Mount Airy Pride. Chief Taylor.
Mayor, council, this is something we'll hope you will agree to. It's a memorandum of understanding between Henderson and the City of Mount Enterprise. They have one officer that's down there conducting traffic stops, and there's a couple highways down there that are used for interdiction. So a lot of criminal activity that moves through there. We're wanting to send our officer, Kevin Disnett, who's our canine officer, down there at certain times during the week to assist in that. He'll be able to assist his backup, and he'll also be able to conduct his own traffic stops. And we'll have more, the City of Henderson will have more of a regional impact in our area working down there.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Do I hear a motion? Move. Motion and a second has been made. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Like sign opposed. Item number 6 stands approved. Item number 7 on the agenda is consideration and possible action upon an agreement between the City of Henderson Police Department and Kilgore.
Sorry, Paul, your officer. If I may, I'd like to also, before we get started, recognize Sergeant Austin here. Right. He's been appointed as our new commander of our tactical unit.
Okay.
And he's also been doing a lot of work with us on this memorandum of understanding that we hope that you will accept between us and Kilgore. What we're wanting to do is start a regional SWAT unit, which will handle the cities of Henderson and Kilgore. It'll be comprised of officers from our department and officers from Kilgore. It'll utilize both of our inventories, which will make us better equipped, and it'll also give us more members of a team which will be able to respond more readily to any events that we have that we need to respond to. And so we're open for your agreement to that as well. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
I make a motion, we approve.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Like sign opposed. Item 7 stands approved. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may, I'll ask you.
Chief's got to drive to, out of town.
Yeah. I saw it. Yeah, right. Okay, let's move on to item number 8. Consideration and possible action upon resolution updating Rusk County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. Resolution 2021-010-10-08. Yes. Okay, Jay.
Yeah, so this is a plan that Rusk County does, and it's going to be all school districts, all cities within the county. Everybody is needing to approve this resolution to be kind of basically be a part of any funding if there is a need for FEMA assistance or anything. If we have a disaster, any kind of mitigation funds that can be available for us, we have to be able to approve this multi-jurisdictional mitigation plan. So it's very lengthy. I don't know if you've read every word of it, but it's a very detailed plan.
Houston.
Yeah. But ultimately, what we wanted, the high point is, it's something we do need to approve and be a part of in order to be eligible for funding if we need it in a disaster type situation.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Like sign opposed. Good. Item number 8 stands approved. Item number 9 on the agenda is consideration and possible action upon a resolution 2021-10-05 for opioid settlement. What have you got there?
I do, and Joe, if you have anything to add to this, ultimately, there's been a long class action lawsuit on the opioid abuse across the nation for a while. It's been going on. So there's several states, 40 some odd states, I think, have gotten together, the attorneys general, and gotten with pharmaceutical companies and providers and have reached a settlement. And so for us to be a part of that settlement, we just have to sign on with the Attorney General's office with the state of Texas. And there's funding that will come out of that. I think the number roughly is about $73,000 for the city of Henderson. And it will come to 8% of it will come probably in the spring. The remaining amount will come in checks annually for the next several years. So we have three options on this. Either we do nothing, or we jump on this class action lawsuit with the Attorney General of the state of Texas and all the other states, and then we have those funds that will be coming to us, or we jump in and do our own individual lawsuit, jump in behind all the other hundreds of thousands that are out there, and hope you ever get a court date. I don't think Joe probably wants to do that. So ultimately, it really comes down to, do we want to just sign on and be a part of this and receive the funding, or no? The only caveat is if we say, yes, we want to do this, that just means that we cannot turn around and sue them later on for the same thing.
Will we be limited in what we can spend those funds on?
There are some limits on it. It's pretty wide with not just opioid related things that you can use it for. It can be pretty much anything drug related. However, there's not a lot of enforcement on it because the state of Texas is the one that's actually selling the suit on our side. So the only people on the other end would be the pharmaceutical companies, and they're really just wanting to write a check and move on and get out of the way. So there are some stipulations on it. It's pretty wide though on it, but we would generally probably try to use it, earmark it for drug related. Anything we can do that can help with addictions across the city.
My recommendation is we sign on with the Attorney General's lawsuit.
We would do that by approving this resolution, and then we would sign a form as well to the Attorney General, letting them know.
We have a motion, have a second, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Like sign opposed. Item number 9 stands approved. Item number 10 on the agenda, consideration and possible action upon ordinance 2021-10-0, the first reading, providing exclusivity of dumpsters with the company under contract with the city of Henderson. Okay.
Sure. Yep. So ultimately, what this is we have as we've had for years, there's an exclusive contract with a Waste Connection or public services type company that will take on our solid waste for residential and commercial alike. They're exclusive contracts with the franchise agreements. However, there's not any enforcement in it really. I think Joe, again, if you want to jump in here, the ordinance would allow for enforcement if somebody had a different dumpster they were using. It was not within, it was in violation of that exclusive contract, the franchise agreement. It just allows for opportunity to enforce that agreement ultimately.
That's correct.
Correct? So
The original contract provides for the exclusivity, but there's no teeth in it. There's really nothing that you can use to enforce it, but the amendment does provide for some enforcement.
for the ordinance.
Yes, correct.
Okay. With that being said, we have several people that have signed up, and I'd like to bring those forward at this time. I'll just start on top here. Brent, come on up first.
Good evening, council members. What I want to talk about is the exclusivity to the dumpsters that are going to be for the Republic Services who currently have our contract for the city of Henderson. One of the things that I would like to clarify is what are they considering the dumpsters? Are they considering roll-off dumpsters as well? This is something that would be permanent or temporary use for a lot of construction sites, builders, individuals that want to remodel their homes, etc. When that was my first clarification is what are we going to be classifying as dumpster? I understand if, a business or, someone is using commercial containers at a restaurant or a business, they need to use Republic Services billed through your water bill. However, if it's going to be something that's going to be as a roll-off dumpster, that would probably be a big issue with some of the contractors, the builders that are in this community, that y'all are telling us that we have to use this company and they would have a monopoly on what they are able to build. So if I can call someone and they say, I call Republic and they say, this is our fee, this is what it's gonna cost for us to put a roll-off dumpster in the city of Henderson, this is what you have to deal with. This is what you have to pay. That is creating a monopoly over other businesses. One of the things that I would speak for is I have roll-off dumpsters. I own them myself and I use them on my own projects, but however, there's times that individuals or builders call me and they would like to use one of my roll-off dumpsters. Also, here today is Just in Time. They have roll-off dumpsters and porta potties. They actually supply porta potties to the Surf Festival. They actually currently have a yard here in the city of Henderson and are chamber members and pay local city taxes. That is one of the things that concerns me is what is amended and what is this going to put as far as, is this going to be roll-off dumpsters? If this is a permanent roll-off situation, if you have a large company that has to have, roll-off dumpsters like all the time, I would understand them billing that through your water bill. But if you have something that's a temporary usage, contractors should be able to pick who they use for their services on a temporary basis and not who somebody says they have to use. Because that, you can't compete. You can't go in and try to shop around who's going to use a dumpster. There might be a bigger company out of Longview that's a contractor that has a contract with another roll-off service than they put in the city of Henderson. Well, then they're having to deal with Republic. That concerns me. We need to clarify what is considered as a dumpster. That's going to include roll-off dumpsters. Then we need to make sure that, I don't want that to hinder anybody from building, inside the city of Henderson or trying to progress when someone's telling you, hey, this is what you have to use. This is their fee, and that's what it comes down to. So I think that the council, you'll need to consider what is considered as a dumpster, and if it's going to be for a short-term project, that we are allowed to use other companies for roll-offs versus one company and one company only. So, if you have any questions?
Thank you. Okay, we have Rodney Woods. Come on up.
I would reiterate what Brent said there a while ago. I'm Rodney Wooten. I'm the general manager of Wolfpack Rentals. I do have a yard here in Henderson, out here on Kilgore Drive. We do have porta potties and dumpsters. I've been in business for 25 years, and I do want to see if we can define the definition of a dumpster. I realize that a city needs to get a contract with an entity like Waste Connection or Republic. And I know you have to have a contract with them to draw them in here. And I deal with this with other cities, Marshall, Carthage, Kilgore, Longview, and they all pretty well do the same thing. It's the trash service with the dumpsters at the commercial sites and trash cans is part of that contract, but not the roll-off dumpsters. It takes away a free enterprise that people have a choice. So, for example, if somebody wants to tear down a house or whatever, they shouldn't have to use Republic. And I've run into this with Henderson a few times, but really it never has been too much of a problem. The only time I really had a problem was when the new school was built out there, when y'all annexed the school. The day that they annexed, I had to go get my dumpsters off, and I forgot if it was Republic or Waste Connection then that brought their dumpsters out. And the contractor was very perturbed on that because his fee went up like $500 a dump, but he had to use it. He didn't have a choice. But it's the same with an individual here. Like Brent said, it's for temporary service. It's not a permanent service in Brickville. So I just would like to see the definition defined of what dumpster. They're both dumpsters, but one of them's a roll-off dumpster. So understand there's two different things. That roll-off and dumpsters are two different things. But if you just say dumpsters, I guess that would cover it all. But we want to get that the definition defined. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Wes? Yeah. Come on up.
Evening, council. My name is Wes Breidenberg. I'm the commercial account manager for Waste Connections. And first and foremost, I just want to say I'm not here representing Waste Connections. These statements that I make don't have anything to do with Waste Connections as a whole entity. I don't have any legal representation here. Just my personal opinions as a concerned citizen here in the city of Henderson as it relates to this particular agenda item, and just as a taxpayer here in the city. The previous gentleman was talking about definitions of a dumpster. And so I looked it up in the ordinances, the general under the definition, trash receptacle larger than 100 gallons of volume used primarily by commercial, institutional, and industrial uses and construction projects for collection of trash. Dumpsters are generally constructed of durable metal and box-shaped vessels and designed to be easily transported off-site or emptied. So that's the definition according to the current code. There's additional restrictions on that. There's exclusions for certain types of dumpsters on the temporary use as it relates to whether they have to be an enclosure and meet setback requirements and that sort of thing. But that's basically what's in there now. And without having this particular ordinance in front of me or available to me to know what Jay's going to explain, further define, I simply want to speak as a waste management professional. And I guess, I'll just preface that and say I kind of echo some of the concerns from a personal, not a professional perspective, philosophical perspective of free market enterprise and the ability of an individual in any particular entity to have a choice on who they want to use from a practice. I have questions that need to be asked. I feel like the council needs to ask of the practical application of this particular ordinance, the code enforcement, the particular administrative expense that possibly could be incurred as a result of trying to enforce such an ordinance. I know from a practical standpoint, he mentioned construction of the new elementary school, or the probably Wiley's what he's referring to. I know I was working at the landfill whenever the new middle school was done over here. We did have a contract back at that time with the hauling side of the provider. The general contractors, like you said, will come in from Dallas or Fort Worth or somewhere else, and they'll want to use whoever they want to use. Those cans will be set, and they can be at that facility or the facility up the road within minutes because they want to use who they want to use. You can get it there the fastest. They want to be able to, like I said, they want to be able to have that flexibility. So some of the concerns they said are valid, and like I said, I do understand that from a permanent standpoint or a temporary standpoint, there is financial gain to be had from the city for the collection of additional revenues on the markup of the containers. So I do understand that you guys have to consider that from a revenue collection standpoint, but I want you also to clarify that I don't personally intend to benefit from or have any sort of personal vested interest in compensation or financial compensation as a result of this, even though I do represent, Waste Connections. I would gladly, I can tell you right now, you might want to know how I'm compensated, but the point is, I would gladly sacrifice any kind of personal individual gain for that as a result of that, as a result of the consideration or deliberation of this here. So I just wanted to express those concerns and see, like I said, my request to the council would be just to do some further due diligence into this. I would like to fill out a meetings request, or open records request to get a copy of the existing contract with the city, so that, like you said, the further definitions, not just contained here in the current code, but also as it's defined in the contract, exactly what that would relate to. And, because I filled out one of those requests, I just haven't had a chance to submit it yet. So as long as that is a matter of public record, then I'd like to have that request fulfilled for either me or the other individuals that are speaking here, anybody else that would be concerned about that, and then go from there. So I would just try to request to table that, any kind of action on that, not until that's done. So thank you.
Any more discussion, questions?
Is that all speakers, sir? Is that all?
Yeah.
So my first interaction about this came Friday night, probably not an hour after or Friday afternoon, not even an hour after the agenda was put up. And, it came from one of the largest employers here in the city. And they were pretty concerned with the situation because they deal with a lot of, not only just commercial construction, special waste, but they were very concerned about this, considering they were wanting to play within the rules and work with Republic on this. But they were told that due to the demand of what they're doing, that demand can't be met. So if we're gonna force a rule on businesses and contractors, et cetera, and there's concern that those demands can't be met, I can't in good faith go for this tonight. That doesn't even, I'm not even gonna get into details about the other 12 calls I took over this between now and today, because they all said the same thing. It's just too vague. And I think we should, if we're gonna do something like this, we definitely need to do more homework on it.
Just to clarify, what are we at? What are we saying is vague?
Well,
I mean,
the existing ordinance or the existing code that we have for trash collection, it doesn't really clarify dumpsters versus roll-offs. It lumps them into one category. And if we want to keep it that way, that's one thing. But I know other people who aren't in this room that they bought their own roll-off containers that they haul on their own.
Yeah.
You know, just like Mr. Payne, you know, they possess them because it was either the level of service that they could or could not get, or expense that was too much for them. And I just don't want to be an impediment to development or any of the other needs we're trying to meet here. I'm not for this ordinance tonight.
But this ordinance is only enforcement. The contract has been in play. Exclusive contract has been in place, but then the previous contract with Waste Connections was in play for, well, different names, but 18 years, you'd say the same thing. So roll-offs are included in that part of the contract. So the ordinance doesn't have anything to do with it. The ordinance simply just, there's a question about the word dumpster in it, and I get the question, we need to, I don't know, but this would be to enforce what's already in play with the contract. Now, if we have a situation where the current provider under contract can't meet a need, well, then that needs to be addressed, and we need to figure that out individually, what the situation is, for sure, because, yeah, that's an issue, that's a total different issue. The exclusive contract also has franchise fees, and it includes a higher threshold of insurance for situations, because those dumpsters and roll-offs, either one or both on the road with trucks, heavy trucks. So there's insurance requirements that we put into play in that contract as well. So those are other things that come into play when you talk about exclusive rights. You want to make sure you know who's on your road, who's driving the trucks, and what their insurance levels are to protect all of our citizens or visitors that come into the city. That's just part of the contract. It's like it's in there, it's why it's there. Just explaining what's in the contract and why it's there, so we know kind of what that looks like from a franchise fee standpoint and insurance coverage. That's part of the bid process when the city ever goes through those contracts that we do. So the enforcement piece is the only piece of this ordinance. It's just simply to be able to have teeth to enforce it if you want to enforce the contract you have, ultimately.
I had one of the, a phone call earlier as well, voicing their concerns with the, lack of options for their roll-off and the price that they would be charged versus what they could be charged if people that were using their own company or person or roll-offs. So, in the previous contract, we weren't enforcing the exclusivity.
I'm gonna say in the first year that I was here, probably not, I don't know, the previous years. I had to go back and look at the contract, see completely what was in that, in the contract, assuming that that was probably the same on the exclusivity and the franchise fees piece. But I don't know about the contract, I have to look at the contract to see if it's in there, number one. Enforcement, I don't know if we ever wrote, where Billy go in the back, I don't know if we ever wrote a citation.
We just,
I don't think we have an ordinance probably.
we showed up on the job site, or business and told them about our contract with the provider and asked them to replace the dumpster service that they were using with the ones we were under contract with.
Did that
And
happen?
they oblige. We never had one, deny or say, argue was, they wouldn't do it, they weren't, the excuse was given, they were not aware of the contract that we had with the Republic, but they all changed their dumpsters out to, Republic when asked.
I don't feel comfortable moving forward, so at a minimum, I would suggest, in my opinion, to at least table it.
It's a first reading too, by the way.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a first
first
reading, so table it, you still gonna have to, or not, whatever you wanna do. It's first reading. I just remember that's what the ordinance, it takes 2 readings, so.
What would be the price difference for using Republic and, one of theirs? I wonder what, what the difference.
Again, you're talking about insurance requirements and franchise fees, and that's part of the reason of the cost.
I can give you a
About
ballpark,
doing business, so.
$500.
Difference.
Yes.
On,
Per month or
What?
per job or
Per dump.
per dump?
Yes.
per dump for,
A roll-off dumpster. And
well, there's different sides. I was trying to get, I wanna make sure we're all apples to apples, everybody understands what we're talking about. But it's a good question, we don't address.
it's according to what size,
Right.
request.
Right.
But you have a 10-yard, you have a 20-yard, you have a 30-yard dumpster. I think they even got some 40-yard, I like it's 40-yard. But there, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
It does say the exclusivity of dumpsters. Now, that's what we need to distinguish. Yes, that's fine, dumpsters. These are roll-offs. It has nothing in there about roll-offs. Roll-offs is a whole different animal than a dumpster. It's treated, it's called upon temporarily. It's not nothing that's a permanent, thing that somebody uses. I mean, if you trim your trees in your yard and you need something to put it in, you call a roll-off dumpster. You don't call it a dumpster as this here is stated. Roll-off is a whole different animal. It doesn't say anything about roll-offs in this here. Well, if you want to get legal about it, it doesn't say anything about roll-off.
So a dumpster would more be permanent.
A dumpster is one that says.
A roll-off is something that you need once a year, or something,
Or maybe never.
or.
Or you may need, a builder may need, one
job.
dumped every time he calls. So that was the problem with the school, with the contractor out here that's building school. When he went off, Wes, was it Waste Connection that?
I mean,
That y'all brought y'all's dumpsters out? When we had to get ours?
Probably.
But the price went up $500 for a dump.
But as Jay said, he's correct. There's additional insurance requirements, there's reasons for why the cost is what it is. But I did allude to the fact that there is additional revenue built into the city of Henderson, so I do understand why the city, not being the city of Henderson's interest to consider that sort of thing. But like, as to what you said on enforcement, as far as the questions about who was enforcing it, I can just speak to my 5 years of the landfill, and the facts are that, I enforced it at scale or not, and, I'll call them or, communicated with the water department here at the city, or, if we basically, as a company, as a private company under contract, would assist with the enforcement of the code. So we would call, and like I said, and that's when I spoke to additional administrative or procedural expense. In fact, I application of it. I'm talking about additional phone calls, additional, questions about the enforcement, like I said, of the existing contract. Then again, as a matter I've already mentioned of having a copy of the additional contract so you can see how things are defined. I define it according to code, which seem to include a roll-off dumpster as part of how it's defined in the code, but then just to see how it's spelled out specifically in that contract. So it's kind of hard to say you're gonna enforce a contract of such a broad scope if you don't have a copy of it and you don't understand it. Because I know, for example, in the waste management industry, we structure municipal contracts with not just City of Henderson, but other municipalities where sometimes temporary roll-off containers are included in that franchise agreement. And sometimes only permanent roll-off, like I said, for a big company like West Fraser or somebody, is included with what gets billed to the city. But sometimes temporary roll-offs are not. Sometimes special waste containers are not. Because again, they just want the ability to call, like you said, whoever they can call, and there is a high demand, as Ron spoke, or somebody else spoke to. There is a high demand in the market for this type of service. So that is definitely true. So,
I do want to say one thing. Talking to several builders in Henderson, a lot of builders or outside Henderson contractors have negotiated rates with roll-off companies. When you call Republic, there's not a negotiation. So when we're told that we have to use this, or builders told we have to call Republic, they say what their fee is. There's not a negotiation when they can call Just in Time or call someone else in Longview or Tyler that can work a deal with that contractor because they've been using that company for a long time. And it's just, it costs more money on the contractor, the builder, or whoever is.
and like I said, you could further define permanent businesses that have roll-offs on site long term versus temporary use. So that can be defined in either the contract or, however it needs to be defined. But that's why I was just requesting that not to be moved on.
I'll stick with what I said. I don't feel comfortable making a decision tonight because I don't feel like I know everything I need to know to make that decision. I move to pass on.
Table.
Table.
Almost like a
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All right. All opposed, like sign. Okay, we'll table it this time. All right. All right, item number 11 on the agenda. Consideration and possible action upon resolution 2021-10-06 on budget amendment number 2 for the 2020-2021 budget. Bring us that explanation.
Good evening. This is, budget amendment for the 2020-2021 budget. I had a few items, there to amend. One of them being the fire department. They got a fire truck. We just didn't have that purchase in the 2020-2021 budget until we knew what the exact amount was going to be and how it was going to be funded. And so now that the year has ended, we know that the cost of the fire truck, and then we know that we had to borrow about half of that cost, and the other half was given to the city by the Russ County Fire, the Emergency Services District 1. Gave us half of that. So that's to go in there. So we put the expense in, we increased the expense for the fire truck, and then we increased the revenue in those line items. One of them miscellaneous because that's where we put for the loan, and then the other Russ County Fire revenue account for the other to make up the cost of that fire truck. The police department, there were a few grants that they received throughout the year, and of course we didn't know that those were going to happen, so those are good things. Again, we're just increasing the revenue for those grants and then increasing the expense on the expense side, whichever line item they, use to pay for those, different items. A lot of them are the capital, projects. And then, of course, the big one, the, American Rescue Plan, where we received, over 1.6 million for that, that came in August. Of course, we didn't know, last year when budgeting that this was going to happen. So we, of course, increased that revenue and then just put it in a single line item for expense. Coming in August, we haven't had a chance to spend any of that, so that will all roll over into next year, and we'll, of course, spend that, according to the guidelines for that. So those are the amendment requests.
And that rescue plan, that's our first half. We're gonna get another half next August.
Year. Yes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made, seconded. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Item number 11 stands approved. Item number 12 on the agenda is consideration and possible action upon the City of Henderson investment policy, resolution number 2021-10-07.
Okay, this is just something y'all look at annually. And, we didn't make any changes to the investment policy. We're just very, very safe with our money. We just keep it in CDs and the bank. We don't really go out and try to, do much, as far as any type of investments other than just very, very safe for the city.
I move we approve the investment policy.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Like sign opposed. Item number 12 stands approved. Item number 13 on the agenda is consideration and possible action. Thank you, Karen. Appointing place number 3, an unexpired term with 2 new members to the HEDCO board for place 5 and place 6. This will complete the 7-member board. Mr. Clary, would you like to say anything about this?
They have that memo, is that right? I've got it. Yeah, I got it.
Yes, they have permission. They got it. Okay.
So, so this is real straightforward. This is what we have been talking about for a while, that, we're expanding the board number from 5 to 7. And we're replacing Benny Welch, who had retired or resigned. And so, so we're adding 3 members, and we had to go through and create places for them. So we have the term that Ben left at was a 2-year term, and the others are going to be on for a 3-year term. So anyway, that's what we are proposing. You all have been talking about some names, and so those are up to y'all. So.
No, we did draw names, if you will, similar to what we do for the election or place on ballot. So we drew names, and what the result was from that was that place 3, the Ben's term that would be expiring next year, we drew by Brian Ballard's name. And for place 5 was Dylan Culp, and place 6, Michael Bell. Those both expire in 2024. But that was the results of that drawing.
I make a motion, we approve. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Like sign opposed. Item number 13 stands approved. Item number 14 is consideration and possible action appointing board of adjustment members. Would that be you, Jennifer? Do that?
Would that be? So we did have some applicants, and our committee that actually does the interview process for replacement members interviewed 3, we had 3 people to interview, but only 2 showed up. We would like to recommend for the full term of where Ms. Thompson has been for 11 years to be to Alan Stanley. Alan Stanley was the one that was the best interview person for that position, if you please to appoint him. And then we'll have 2 members for reappointment, which would be Cecilia Polk and Reggie Weatherton to the boards.
Okay, any discussion? If not, do I hear a motion?
I move.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. All right, item number 14 stands approved. Moving down to item number 15, that's departmental reports. I think you have those in your packet. You probably read those. If you have any questions, now would be the time to ask those. Several department managers are here. Maybe be able to answer those questions.
I don't really have a question, I just have a thank you to Kirk and his guys for putting in the swing set there at Montgomery Park. Well, we appreciate y'all.
Turkey is a little high.
It's a little high.
Yeah. I'm surprised that you had it that high.
We'll put some longer chains on it.
I'm just kidding. I haven't been down and do it, but the road, it looks like it's kind of
I
high.
haven't personally swung
I don't think you can.
Might be some feet dangling there. They look good, they look good.
Okay, let's move on to boards and commissions. Y'all have any questions on the minutes? Board of Adjustments, Planning and Zoning, Cemetery Board, Main Street minutes, and Preservation minutes. I think those are also in your packet. You probably have plenty of time to read those.
Well, and that's really just for informational purposes.
Yeah.
They're just drafts. They're not, they'll be approved by each individual board.
Nothing to vote on. Information on it. Unless you have comments.
These look like the same minutes we had gotten last month or month before.
It could be.
Well, on the Board of Adjustments and Planning and Zoning and Cemetery Board, they are. They're not, they haven't met for another meeting yet, so they haven't been approved yet. At their next meeting, they'll approve those. But the Main Street Preservation have, so those are different.
Okay. They have to stay active. Okay. All right, so with that being said, it is 7:02. 7:02, that's close enough. We'll now move into executive session to consult city attorney and discuss real property located on West Fort Hall, 300 West Main, 113 East Main Street, according to Vernon, Texas Code, chapter 551, 072. Let me say one more quick thing. We have a huge crowd over here on the right in the council chambers that just suddenly appeared for no reason. I didn't know if y'all wanted to get up and speak or do anything.
I'll hold up real quick.
Say anything, so that's your team, so you get up.
Yes.
Big part.
So, 2 years ago, our euthanasia numbers were around 570, and this year, it was 29. So I just wanted to bring these ladies here so y'all can put a face to the people that work really hard behind the scenes for these animals that make everything happen for them.
Keep up the good work. Okay. Excellent.